What's going on, everybody? I'm going to start off this video immediately by saying, please don't jump to my defense in my comment section. Please don't seek out any of the people who left the comments in this video. We are all entitled to our own opinion, and my channel is not a place for harassment. If I see that you're harassing someone, I will. I don't know if I don't even know if you can block people on YouTube, but I will take you out of my comment section. I will delete your comment, and yeah, that's because that's not cool. It's yeah. So everybody stay chill. Everybody, no harassment.
Leave me alone! Ah!
I'm an idiot, so I guess while I was playing on the PTB, I was so negligent of the Hardened perk that I didn't realize that it actually always required the restriction of needing to open a chest and cleanse a totem before it activated. I don't think it changes my argument much. Most of my points didn't even bring that up entirely, but it still is, in my opinion, a pretty bad perk because that's like 12 seconds at least, maybe 30 give or take, because you got to find a chest or find a totem, and that is time that you're spending not working on the objective, which, in my opinion, is not good for the health of your Dead by Daylight matches. Yeah, so today we're going to be just getting into comments that were left on the bottom of my last video and replying to them, responding to them, maybe clearing up some confusion in my video. There seemed to be a lot of confusion and a lot of points made about my opinion on the alert perk and my opinion on like hiding as a whole being a bad strategy for Survivor. And so yeah, we're gonna get through to that, and we're gonna start with our first comment that says, "It's strange that your friend uses alert like that. Even as someone who prefers to play support and be a gen jockey, I use alert to keep myself calm by knowing that the killer is distracted by being in a chase, allowing me to stay on a gen, regardless of how close the killer is." And so what this comment is referring to is a more beneficial way to use alert. A lot of new players are very scared of the killer because they trick themselves into thinking that Dead by Daylight is a scary game, when I see it far more as like a strategy game or a PvP game personally. But this person is talking about the correct way, making sure that you understand the killer is occupied while working on a generator, while completing the objective, while healing a survivor, while doing other things. This is like a more correct way of using alert, and not exactly what I'm arguing, but I don't think he's arguing that I'm arguing that. He is just saying it's weird that my friend used alert like that, and I agree, it is weird, but we're still friends. I'm not going to stop being friends with someone just because they're not the best player at Dead by Daylight. Next up, we got two comments that tell me that I'm completely wrong about Hardened. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. They're not saying all that. They just say that what you're missing is that survivors scream anytime they're hit by the killer or hooked. Scream applies to any type of pain vocalization a survivor makes. And they are correct. They are completely correct. You do scream when you get hit. But what Hardened does is it just reveals their aura instead of screaming. And so I've got to ask, what exactly does a 5-second aura read do for you when the killer's on top of you and they just hit you? I personally don't see the benefit. Same thing as when you get hooked. Like, the killer doesn't really get that far away from you in 5 seconds. So I don't think that this changes the perk. I don't think that I was aware of this, is what I'm saying pretty much. I was aware that this is how the perk worked. I was aware that you get an aura read when you get hit, but you're going to be using your hit speed boost to find a new tile, get a better position, and yeah. So this doesn't change my argument. Our next comment says, "Funny because I know you're right, but I use Doctor and I like to do the Shaman build on Trapper," which I don't know what the Shaman build is. I googled it, nothing really came up, "with Face the Darkness. So I'm like, I hope more people think this perk is useless. Also, perks countering Doctor and Trapper are making some of the weakest killers even weaker." So this person is saying that it's good that I'm making people think that this perk sucks, because it specifically counters a build they like to run. And yeah, that's good. That's good. Like I said, it's a very niche playstyle that this perk targets, and so it really doesn't help anybody because it's not going to feel good if you have a playstyle that has a lot of survivors screaming, because you're going to be getting countered by a weird perk that never needed to be added to the game in the first place. And I replied to the comment, I say exactly. There is no place in a game with close to 40 killers to have a perk that counters 1 or 2. It just doesn't make sense. And he replies again, especially the weakest killers. Congrats, you made Doctor even weaker. Now, Doctor did just get a bunch of quality of life improvements and some buffs to make him a bit stronger, but the point still stands. The Doctor is no, like, S tier killer. He's, like, average at best, I personally, I think. And so, adding a perk that specifically requires, like, a central piece of his kit just seems really not good in the perspective of game design and perk design as a whole, which is what I'm arguing entirely. This whole discussion is arguing about what Hardened says about the game's balance and the design philosophy of perks and killers and everything. It's not, I'm not telling you guys how to play the game. I'm not telling you guys not to use the perk. I mean, I kind of am, because it's not a good perk, but that's the perspective that I'm arguing from. Next up is someone that got a little heated, but I don't blame him, you know. The only perk out of the entire list you rattled off that shows you where the killer is pain res, and even then, that's only because of the hook bubble and not the perk itself. Eruption means the killer kicked it. They could be on the entire other side of the map when it makes you scream. Infectious Fright doesn't tell you where they are, it just tells you that, to nobody's surprise, you're in the killer's terror radius. Now, I think I did type up a reply to this person, but I didn't end up clicking reply, I think on accident, because I could have sworn I replied, but when I checked, Roberta Why You Care replied, and he said pretty much exactly what I said. Eruption and Infectious Fright tell you where the killer is because you can look at your downed teammate's aura. Congrats, you know where the killer is on top of them. Unless they're running knockout or you have blindness, I guess. But then this perk wouldn't work either. I guess another one is if the killer is ranged and gets a really good snipe, but that's also super rare. So yeah, this person pretty much just said everything I was about to say in reply. Friends Till the End shows you where the killer is because they have to hook someone to activate it. Pain Res shows you where the killer is because you have to hook someone to activate it. Infectious Fright shows you where the killer is because you have to down someone to activate it. And Eruption Surge show you where the killer is because you have to down someone to activate it. So yeah, then this person might have just been confused. It's whatever. Just another reminder, this person did it in like a nice peaceful way that didn't bring me into the conversation entirely, which is good. Do not harass people in my comment section. Do not engage in pointless aggressive behavior in my comment section. I don't like that. I will delete your comments. I will, yeah, no, not good. Don't do that. This person has a really good point that I think I just kind of pointlessly glossed over, that I should have gone more into in my video, but my video was already like 16 minutes long, so I'm just going to get more into it now. While I agree that the perk is stepping on another perk's territory, Calm Spirit, it's really not a big deal to make a perk that's weak/fine. I disagree on the alert thing. Being afraid of the killer is a natural thing for any beginner, and any perk new survivors don't know how to use will be a detriment to the team. Walking around the whole time because they won't exhaust Sprint Burst. Using self-care at any and all opportunity. Running around the whole map to get prove thyself value instead of just doing a gen solo. Trying to get breakout value when the survivor is a few steps away from a hook. You know, you guys get it. Now, when survivors get better, they'll understand that alert is amazing to understand where other survivors are creating dead zones by dropping pallets, where gens are being regressed, and at a higher level, even deducing what perks the killers are running. Fire Up, Brutal, Nowhere to Hide, Trail of Torment are just a few examples you can uncover with alert. Now, he's completely correct. There are so many other beginner perks that teach survivors bad habits that I didn't touch on in the video because I didn't personally think it was relevant, but that doesn't make this person's opinion any less valid. But I am gonna have to disagree. I would never call alert amazing in any context, because Trail of Torment just gives itself away. Nowhere to hide, you could find out by using Distortion, which, I mean, has the same issue that Hardened does, but at least Distortion is like super beneficial. And Brutal Strength and Fire Up, you can see while you're in the chase with the killer. Additionally, you could see where the dead zones are by using Windows of Opportunity, which I'm sure everybody knows because everybody already used that perk. But, I mean, that wasn't the focal point of his comment. He was saying that every single perk that a new player uses, if they don't know how to use it at its peak potential, is going to be a detriment to the team, and he is completely correct. And honestly, that's really all I got to say about it. This guy was very level-headed with his reply. He didn't try to target me. He just stated his opinion and offered a different view. And I should have gone more into other perks, but yeah, I just didn't. Yeah, that's fine. Next comment here. I'm going to disagree with having to interact with the killer statement. It's not necessary to interact with the killer if I do 3+ gens while people get chased and unhook and heal people, but don't ever get chased myself. I'm not a detriment to the team. So, in this specific situation, his situation just is not what I'm referring to. The playstyle that I worry about is being so scared of interacting with the killer that your actions to stay away from the killer actively prevent you from completing the objective. I don't think I brought it up explicitly in the video, but you can be effective and not interact with the killer as much. But as Stink Binko says in his reply to the comment, it shouldn't be the responsibility of your teammates to always have to run the killer for 3 minutes. The generator playstyle will never be a 100% viable tactic in every single trial. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing his words a bit, but yeah, I'm rephrasing it to fit my argument a bit. And I mean, I'm sure if this guy wanted to go back and edit his comment, he could do so. Every player on the team must know how to handle chases in some capacity. The have to is a heavy word, but like, it is preferred for every single survivor to have some capability of being able to run the killer for like a minute or two, you know? It's preferred. It's good for it increases your odds of everybody getting in. Next comment says, I feel like pairing it with Dramaturgy could be good. 3 out of 4 good results, 2 being good in chase. Even if that ends up being unviable, I could see this perk being more useful in the future when more self-inflicted screen perks are added. And this actually led me down like a rabbit hole in my brain that like I didn't even consider when making the original video, and it's the fact that to make this perk viable, they're going to have to add other perks. But the more scream perks they add to the game, the stronger this perk becomes. And then once this perk gets too strong, they're going to nerf the perk. And then we're going to have a bunch of pointless self-inflicted screaming perks, or perks that make you scream on the killer side, that aren't as good anymore because they nerfed the reason they added them. This, in my opinion, and even though it's a lot of hypotheticals and like what, it'll probably take like 20 chapters for all that to happen, this supports my thesis, or whatever you call it, my opinion, that there is just no place in Dead by Daylight for a perk that has the activation requirement of screaming. There's no room for it. We didn't need it. Specialist and Finesse are 2 very good perks. Why did Hardened have to fall so short? And why did you have to add Hardened half a chapter after you added Stillsight? Like, are we trying to give every survivor a perk that lets you see the killer through walls? Because I don't think survivors need that. I think survivors get enough information like just normally, and we already have crazy perks like Kindred and Object of Obsession. Do we really need more ways to see the killer through walls? But that's I can make a whole video discussing. So on to the next comment. Honestly, I don't see an issue with survivors hiding. I mean, yeah, this killer can be annoying, but this game shouldn't be about running around a piece of wood for 5 minutes. That's just dumb. At least when I fight against hiding survivors, I feel like I'm having fun. When I loop, it's just not engaging. I think there needs to be more playstyles that don't revolve around looping. If people want to hide, there's absolutely nothing wrong. I think with the way the game is formatted right now, there isn't room for like a hide and seek playstyle. So while this person may feel that the game needs a playstyle that doesn't revolve around looping, it's just the way the game is right now. And I mean, there are other playstyles. There's stealth playstyles that aren't, you know, standing in a corner of the map for a whole minute. You know, you got like bite the bullet, self-care, lucky break. You could do like any means necessary and pick up pallets so your teammates can recycle them. There's other ways to be useful that aren't looping. So I think if you have this outlook on looping, that then like you're right. You know, like you're not wrong. Running around a piece of wood for 5 minutes is dumb, but to some people, looping is engaging. That's a very opinionated thing that this person is kind of popping out. But something I am going to disagree with is that there there is absolutely nothing wrong with people wanting to hide, but I only disagree if the hiding is like for the entire match. If all 4 survivors are alive, there's no reason for you to be hiding for like longer than 30 seconds. When the killer leaves, you should get back on the gen, you know? I think hiding, ratting is what the playstyle is called, leads to just a lot of lost games, a lot of gens that could have been popped not getting popped, and things like that. And so this player is right at their core of their statement. They are right. Looping is getting old and we need more ways to play Dead by Daylight. And you know, you're seeing new ways to play Dead by Daylight coming out, like the dark modifier. We got My Little Oni. My Little Oni is probably the closest to a hide and seek game mode we've gotten for a while, unless you count the dark or the lights out game mode. But I actually didn't even play lights out, so I don't even know what that was like. We got 2v8 coming. I don't even know if looping's going to be viable in that game. It's going to be brand new for everybody. But yeah, like, you can absolutely be effective while hiding in the trial. The playstyle I don't think is good for the game is when you're being so immersed and so scared of interacting with the killer that the actions you take to avoid the killer keep you from doing the objective almost entirely. Where you're spending like more than half of your time in a bush instead of working on a generator while the killer's on the other side of the map. Very common for new players to lock themselves into this mindset that getting hit at all is bad. You see a lot of new players thinking that they can't work on a gen if they're injured. A very common opinion, not opinion, but like a very common thing that new players trick themselves into is they actually think that they're slower when they're injured because the tutorial doesn't explicitly say like, hey, nothing's wrong with being injured, you're just one hit away from going down. I had it happen twice actually, where a new player that I'm trying to help get into the game thinks that they're slower when they're injured, and I have to be like, no. When you're injured, you're the exact same. Just being healthy is like a layer protection from getting hurt. Yeah, like, this person isn't wrong, but they're not like completely right either. Like, this is a very loaded issue. Looping does get old, but there are other ways to play that maybe if you're not encountering those other play styles in your killer matches, like maybe just the survivors you're going against are like too sweaty, you know? Maybe 2v8 will be fun. Like you know. Over to our next comment, and our final comment is from Brave Reality, and this actually sparked a pretty long discussion between me and them. And they say, so the problem with your takes that you're speaking in broad strokes about things that require more precision. Your friend that you're talking shit about, so friend in quotes, sounds new, and this makes you sound like you just want her to instantly play the way you do. There are many ways to play, and not everybody loops like a champ. I'm betting you tunnel and camp because they're viable playstyles, which proves that there are multiple playstyles, and just because you don't agree with it doesn't make it not viable. Calm down. Now, don't worry, this does end in a good way, but this first comment does definitely paint them in a pretty negative light. Like, I was definitely a little bitter when I first read this, but I tried to be indifferent when I replied. The friend I bring up is actually a friend that introduced me to the game, but she has different perk preferences than me. I wasn't talking shit about her at all. It was an example of a bad habit Alert can teach even seasoned players that I use to show why a perk like Hardened isn't healthy either. Whether you agree or disagree with the way I chose to get my thought process across, we would have won the match if Alert didn't motivate skittish playstyles and hiding when not necessary. Me and her are still great friends, and she still has more playtime than me. I don't think I would refer to her as my friend in the video if for some reason this one misplay ruined our friendship somehow. Hope this doesn't come off as aggressive or anything, and no, I do not tunnel or camp. Or at least I try not to. And they reply, this comment is far more tame, far less, kind of like pokish. They're not taking strikes at me. They say, you're still kind of proving my point. You say bad habits as if it's not a viable playstyle. All in all, it's just a game and you're meant to enjoy it. Personally, I think it is a bad habit to hide so much that you don't do the objective for minutes at a time. That's my opinion. I'm talking from a perspective of game balance and efficiency when you're playing Dead by Daylight and trying to get out as much as you can. Because when you're speaking of a perk's balance, you're not speaking of how much fun it is. Like when I made a video about Weave Attunement, I talked about how fun that perk is. I didn't say it was overpowered. I didn't say it was too strong. I just said, hey, this perk's super fun to use. Here's a video of me using the perk. And that was it. Is your friend going to be on a DBD esports team with that playstyle? No. But is she having fun? Are you having fun? Are you having fun together? Or is the only way to have fun is to win? This is a completely relative question, and they point this out later by saying, what's a win to you? 3 men out, 2 men out, 4 men out? Yada yada yada. It's all relative. And they're right, it is all relative. But I think that saying things like it's all relative and it's just a game kind of just like invalidates the entire point of the discussion that we're having right now, you know? Because you're saying, like, the way I read statements like that, like, oh, well, everything you just said is pointless because it's just a party game. Or, okay, well, yeah, you have that opinion, but these other opinions exist, and it's all relative. It's all on a spectrum. And so these are kind of like these. It's funny because in their first comment they said you're speaking in broad strokes about things that require more precision, and they are talking in broad strokes. But if there was something that was like more broader than broad, I feel like that's what these statements would be. It's just a game and it's all relative are very, very safe feelings to have. But they establish their stance far more straightforward in the next paragraphs. I apologize if this comes off as aggressive, but I have watched as the whole mindset of Dead by Daylight content creators has devolved down to there's only one way to play the game, and if you don't play this way, it's a bad habit. I work in manufacturing in a role that requires a lean mindset. I appreciate efficiency in making results repeatable, but this is a game, and our primary focus as content creators is entertainment, not telling the populace that there's one way to play the game. You seem like a cool as hell dude, and we need more of those in the community. I wish you nothing but the best of luck in your growth. Thank you, Brave Reality. I appreciate that. But I think in the context of the discussion we're having right now, even though this is a game, and the context of my video in specific, talking about one perk and the effect that it might have on the game, Dead by Daylight's a very unique game in the sense where all these players coming in from different games who have an established definition of what winning is, all of a sudden have their perception skewed. Because do you still feel like you win when you get sacrificed, but all of your teammates get out? The game sees it as a loss for the killer, but it's a loss for you and a win for your 3 friends. It brings a lot of unique situations that other games don't have. And so for your argument in particular, this specific comment, Brave Reality, I see where you're coming from, but I think what you're arguing would be far more fitting if I was arguing about this perk not being fun. But right now, I'm arguing strictly from the perspective of balance and what I feel like it says about the design outlook of the game as a whole. Dead by Daylight doesn't buff or nerf killers based on how fun they are. They make changes based off of kill rates, win rates, usage rates, escape rates. Dead by Daylight balances their games with numbers. They don't balance it based off fun. If they balanced it based off fun, things like hug teching with Blight, 180s with Chucky or Oni, flashy saving people out of lockers would still be in the game because the survivors found that fun, but that survivor made the numbers go little too high than they wanted them. So they changed it. So to answer your question, for the sake of this video and discussion, in particular, I am arguing that winning is fun, even though I don't necessarily believe that. Yeah, me and my friend have fun when we play. They still use alert, but I don't put a gun to her head and make her switch it off. And who knows, she might use Hardened when it comes out. But I'm not going to make her switch it off. This is my YouTube channel, and I'm just sharing my opinion on what I think this perk says about the overall design philosophy and the potential future of what can come to Dead by Daylight. I'm passionate about this game, so seeing things like this getting added that can have a negative effect on anybody, even if the majority of people still have fun using it, to me, is bad. So yeah, and I'd also like to add that in my opinion, winning means getting a lot of blood points. To me, that's winning. But I do see the argument to be made about Dead by Daylight content leaning very heavily towards the sweaty playstyle, and I'll definitely be more mindful of that in the future, but for the sake of this discussion as a whole, I don't think it's the place for that. This discussion is 100% in the perspective of balance And I mean, yeah, that's about it. That's about all the if I cleared any confusion at all. Thank you for all the comments and subs and likes that you guys have left on the last video. If you watched all the way to the end, appreciate it. And that's about all. Thank you.